This is Zach Wilson. This is Geno Smith. And here's their 2022 stats. Notice anything? If you said they both play for the Jets, you'd be correct, but more importantly, it's a drastic change in numbers. Geno put up 5 times the amount of touchdowns Zach did with only a few more interceptions. But how? Well, simply put, it's the system. The Seahawks surrounded Smith with the likes of DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, receivers who both had 1,000 yards, as well as being coached under one of the greatest, Pete Carroll. The coaching staff ran a West Coast scheme under Smith, which led to a career year. In this scheme, Smith was not asked to play improvise and hero ball. Instead, sit in the pocket and find the open man, which Smith strived doing such. Geno had the ability to escape the pocket and make plays either throwing or taking off and running. This led to Smith finishing the year throwing for 4,282 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. Smith, under the Seahawks scheme, led the team to a wild card spot, as well as being named to the Pro Bowl. This is where the Seahawks offense averaged in the NFL, having the 12th best offense in the league. Now that we've seen what a good offensive scheme could do to a quarterback, let's take a look at what a bad scheme could do. A prime example of a quarterback playing under a bad scheme is Zach Wilson with the New York Jets. In 2022, Wilson had a receiving core of Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson, and Tyler Conklin. These receivers would be held to under 600 yards, besides Garrett Wilson, who went off for 1,100 yards. Zach Wilson was tasked with the complete opposite of Geno Smith. Wilson in the Jets scheme was forced to play hero ball. The original scheme was designed for Wilson to drop back and find the open man. However, Wilson looked nervous and was unable to read the field many times. A PFF statistic of Wilson's play: when having good blocks and a clean pocket, his PFF passing grade was at 84.5. When under pressure, that grade plummets down to just 22, which is the worst grade among passers over the last 4 years. And when Wilson was forced out of the pocket and tasked to make hero ball plays, his rating was a 9.8. Now to look at some of the most successful system quarterbacks in the league right now. Starting with the quarterback that's most synonymous with the term system quarterback is Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy was drafted with the last pick of the 2022 NFL Draft to one of the best and most stacked teams in the league, the 49ers. San Francisco runs the West Coast scheme, which ironically was created by former 49ers coach Bill Walsh. Brock Purdy would not start right away, instead sitting behind starter Jimmy Garoppolo, which is brutal to develop any rookie quarterback. Purdy's first start came in Week 13 versus the Buccaneers, where they would win 35-7. Purdy would go 16 for 21, throwing for 185 yards and 2 touchdowns. This pattern of completing smart and safe passes would continue throughout his whole rookie campaign, finishing the year with 67.1 completion percentage, 13 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. In 2023, Purdy was given the keys to the offense, being named the starting quarterback in Week 1. This is where he flourished and never looked back. Throughout the 2023 campaign, Purdy would throw for 4,280 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, also leading the league in quarterback rating at 72.8. While on paper, these stats look phenomenal, which they are, his offensive targets must be credited as well. Purdy was throwing the ball to receivers Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and one of the best tight ends in the league, George Kittle, not to mention having one of the best running backs in the league, Christian McCaffrey. Watching Purdy play, he does not stand at a height like Herbert's 6'6" frame, he does not have an amazing arm like Mahomes or Allen, but what he does have is amazing situational play and amazing talent for reading coverages. Next up is Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, who at the time of recording this video just got a massive payday. Tua was drafted 5th overall in the 2020 NFL Draft, going into Miami's heavy offensive spread scheme. Tua would be throwing the ball to Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, and Mike Gesicki. However, like Purdy, Tua would be bench starting the season, sitting behind veteran Ryan Fitzpatrick. Tua in his first 2 years in the league under Brian Flores, coaching was mediocre. Tua would throw for 27 touchdowns and 15 interceptions, with 4,467 passing yards. After the 2021 season, head coach Brian Flores would be fired and replaced with a young coach Mike McDaniel. McDaniels came in and revamped the scheme completely, turning the offense into a West Coast type of offense. The Dolphins have done a great job catering the offense to Tua's strength. For example, Tua lacks a strong arm that most NFL quarterbacks have. In the scheme, Tua could be seen throwing shorter, quicker routes to fast receivers like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So far, we have liked our quarterbacks who thrived in their new system. But what about a player who thrived in his old system but failed in his new system? Let's take a look at Russell Wilson. Wilson started his career in Seattle and stayed there for 10 years. In those 10 years, Russell Wilson has racked up 2 Super Bowl appearances, winning one of them and being selected to the Pro Bowl 9 times. Wilson put up 37,000 yards with 292 touchdowns and 87 interceptions with the same team. Russ was able to strive with the Seahawks as their offensive scheme mostly consisted of play action and deep passes. Wilson was also a fast quarterback, which allowed the offense to run read options and in quarterback runs. Not to mention, Russell Wilson had one of the best running backs of the time, Marshawn Lynch. Lastly, the Seahawks always had great receivers around him. They had the likes of Doug Baldwin, Tyler Lockett, Golden Tate, Jermaine Kearse, and even DK Metcalf towards the end. However, in 2021, Wilson would ask to be traded to Denver. His reason was that he had a better chance to further his legacy somewhere else. In his first year, Wilson would have a career-low season, throwing for 16 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. He would also be sacked a career-high 55 times in his first year. 2023 was a slight increase, but Wilson looked like a shell of his former self. Now that he is on the Pittsburgh Steelers, will he have a prime year or just another mediocre year? The last player in this video is a player who got drafted to a team with a bad scheme and just a year later had a career best under a new scheme. As Jags quarterback Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence was drafted in 2021 to a brand new NFL coach, Urban Myers. Myers was inexperienced to say the least and was unable to manage NFL players. Myers would run a spread-style offense as well as a mixture of a pro style. To say Lawrence struggled in his rookie year would be an understatement. Trevor would only throw for 12 touchdowns while throwing 17 interceptions. After the season, Myers was fired and Jags brought in Super Bowl champion Doug Peterson. Peterson would implement his West Coast offense and bring in some help for the young quarterback. Lawrence would throw for 25 touchdowns and 8 interceptions in 2022, leading the Jaguars to a wild-card win versus the Chargers. 2023 was a hot start for Lawrence's third year. The Jaguars would start off 8-3. However, a midseason injury would turn him into an interception machine, losing his last 4 games and not making a playoff spot. Let me know your thoughts on the term down below, and if it's really so bad.